from our studios and all the way to you. So wherever you are tuning in from, please do inform us and tell us how it's looking like there. What's the weather condition like? Because it's cold in Nairobi and its environs. It was raining all through the night or throughout most hours of the night. I don't know how the other parts of the country are doing at the moment, but do tell us that. We're also going to be checking the Kenya Met Department on how the weather is going to be changing in the next few days and what you can expect and be prepared for. But welcome to an exciting show where we get to have a look at matters of business and the economy all across the world, but also here in Kenya, so that we are aware of the various factors that are affecting our ability to conduct business, and also how can we make profit and survive the current crisis. The media and, of course, reports on all social platforms are awash with fears of a global looming recession this 2023. This means that the cost of living is expected to go up. Various commodities are going to triple, double in prices, and definitely the livelihoods of several people are going to be affected. We've seen this with layoffs from various multinational companies to small startups, where the economy is trying to, or is battering their revenue generation streams and also their ability to do business. How can you survive in this kind of environment, and how do you prepare yourself into the coming year and into the coming years so that you're not adversely affected in terms of how you are going to, of course, survive and make your livelihood? We've seen how several countries are reacting, citizens, governments, opposition, and in Africa, 5 countries as of yesterday were involved in mass actions and protests witnessed beginning in Nigeria's capital, Lagos, where the opposition politicians called for street protests over what they have described as rigging in last month's presidential election. Nigeria's main opposition, which is led by the presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar, protested over alleged electoral fraud. We saw this also in Tunisia, where protesters marched on streets to pressure the government over the alleged authoritarian rule by President Kais Saied. Thousands of opposition supporters were there on the streets rallying in the capital of Tunis, of course, calling out for this government to respond to them. In Senegal, supporters of Senegalese opposition leader Ousmane Sonko are also protesting, or were protesting, the capital Dakar in support of their aspiring candidate, who is facing cases which are set to resume next week. So that's Nigeria, Tunisia, and Senegal. And in South Africa, police were also deployed across the country on Monday after their opposition called for national shutdown, sparking fears of a repeat of unrest that turned deadly 2 years ago. We saw that the protesters were up as early as 5 in the morning in Cape Town, Johannesburg, and various other cities in South Africa. Of course, heavy security presence there, where demonstrators were and also dismissed later on by their leaders. In Kenya, mass protests were witnessed in major towns, especially in Nairobi, where most operations in terms of business were shut down, and Azimio leader Raila Odinga and his other supporters leading mass protests in Nairobi, but also in Kisumu, Homa Bay, Siaya, and various other places where supporters came out in this, of course, new method of trying to reach the government and address our issues in terms of the rising cost of living, and, of course, asking the government to cushion Kenyans against the adverse effects of the looming recession. Kenya's Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua says that the economy lost 2 billion Kenyan shillings due to this protest, and the opposition leaders are saying that we're expecting this to continue into the coming few weeks until the government is able to sit down with Azimio leader, or is at least able to respond to these issues which are said to be affecting Kenyans. Here on Biashara Tuesday, we have a look at all these developments and try to break them down in how relevant they are to you in terms of business. As we've seen, Rigathi Gachagua, Deputy President, saying that 2 billion Kenyan shillings have been lost yesterday, that is on a day of protests. That is 2 billion Kenyan shillings on just one day of mass action. How true is this, and how more are we expecting to lose into the coming days of mass actions which have been promised by these Azimio leaders? Several arrests were made as well. Few hours spent in the cell by various leaders, majority